Our president, Dementia Joe, caught in a bald-faced lie again, and again it's about his son, and again it's trying to cover up his own behind, and we got the receipts, and we'll show them all to you. Plus, we've got an exclusive interview with George Papadopoulos. He's the man who was in the center of the whole Russian collusion hoax. Our government spied on him, and we're going to hear straight from him what he thinks about it. Oh, and plus, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene tells the former Prime Minister of England, David Cameron, to kiss her. Well, I'll let her say it. That and a whole lot more. My name is Larry O'Connor, and this is Larry. I just want to remind you once again that we're live right now on Rumble. It's noontime, Eastern time, and we're going to be doing this live every single day, Monday through Thursday on Rumble. So thanks for joining us live right now. Great to have and continue to build our Rumble audience. If you're seeing us after the fact, come on back and watch us live. Also, like and subscribe wherever you're watching us. And don't forget to become a VIP member of Town Hall. We'll have more to say about that a little bit later. We've got a special 50% off promo for you if you want to be a VIP member over at Town Hall Media. Stick with us. We'll give you those details in just a minute. All right. You'll remember last week, Robert Hur, the special prosecutor investigating Joe Biden's theft of classified documents and then illegal possession and dissemination of classified materials in those documents. He got off. He wasn't exonerated. He wasn't proven innocent. He wasn't cleared of charges. He got off from any kind of criminal prosecution because he's not lucid, because he has no memory, because no jury in the world would convict him, because the special prosecutor alluded he wouldn't even be able to fully defend himself in court because of his lack of full mental capability. Now, Joe Biden, you'll remember, threw together a press conference that night to push back angrily and forcefully against any suggestion that he's lost his memory. Do you remember this moment in particular when he really took offense that it was claimed that he didn't remember the year that his son died? Watch.
I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something. Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of. Every Memorial Day, we hold a service remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him.
That's right. When he was trying to defend himself against allegations that he had a spotty memory, even on such significant things as the death of his son, he, well, as you just saw, lost his memory. He couldn't remember the name of the church where he got that rosary. It's Our Lady of Guadalupe, by the way. Now, we talked about this on Monday. In fact, you'll remember this was our show on Monday when I discussed this very specific thing where he's really angry. How dare he? I remember when he raised the issue of my son and his death. I thought, who the hell does he think he is, right? Remember that? Well, here was my commentary on Monday about this. And then this whole idea, I thought to myself, how dare he raise that? We all know who raised it. He raised it. I guarantee you we're not going to see the transcripts. They're never going to let us see the transcripts until 20 years after Joe Biden dies. But I guarantee you when he was pressed about why he did this and why he did that and why he did this, he threw out there, well, my son just died. My son Beau just died. And so, I was really shook up about it and I was still reeling. So I can't be held accountable. He uses it all the time. He does use it all the time. And he uses it all the time. He lies about his son's death all the time, let alone continuing to raise it for political purposes. It's despicable. It's another reason why we should always remember that this is one of the worst human beings on the planet, let alone politicians. All right, so fast forward now to last night's exclusive report from NBC News about this very issue, and, well, we'll let them take it away.
President Biden became heated, you'll remember, responding to the special counsel's assertion that he could not remember within several years when his son Beau died. Last week, the president criticized her for asking him about it.
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business.
But tonight, NBC News has learned that Hur never asked that question, according to two people familiar with the interview last fall. They say it was the president, not Hur or his team, who first introduced Beau Biden's death. The sources say the president got the date, May 30th, correct, but not the year.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Peter Alexander. Wow, who could have seen that coming? Of course he raised it. Of course he's the one who raised it. I remember when he asked me that. Remember, let's just go back to what he said there. I remember when he asked me that.
Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business.
When I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it's none of their damn business. He was never asked the question. So he throws together this last-minute Hindenburg disaster of a press conference to prove to the media and to the entire planet, including our enemies who are watching this, that he's completely capable of remembering important things. And he says, I remember when he asked me this question, and it turns out he never asked him the question. His son's death was brought up by Biden himself. The question was never asked. So now you got to ask yourself, at this press conference where he's telling the world that his memory is just fine, and then he says, I remember the moment when he asked me that question, is he lying? Or did he forget that too? It's got to be one or the other. At the press conference where he's trying to explain that he hasn't lost his memory, he lost his memory. Or he lied to you about losing his memory. Now, of course, as I just showed you, we here on this program, we called it. We knew it. We know this guy. We've watched this guy. We know exactly who he is. And we knew that he was the one who raised it at the beginning. So why didn't the rest of the press know that? Why didn't the rest of the media, the people who are actually paid, I assure you, a lot more than we're paid to do this job, why didn't they question it? Why didn't they challenge it? In fact, they did the opposite. Look at what CBS News did here. They actually put together this glorious, triumphant meme, making him look so defiant and such a tough guy. It wasn't any of their damn business. They took that quote and turned it into a meme to celebrate him. And by the way, the Democrats, they sort of exploited the issue as well. They actually put out a fundraising letter, multiple fundraising letters in Dr. Jill Biden's name, specifically focusing on this. Hold on. How dare they suggest that Joe Biden couldn't remember the death of his son? I hope you can imagine how it felt to read that attack, not just as Joe's wife, but as Beau's mother, stepmother. They were shameless about this, and no one challenged it. No one questioned it. It's like no one knows who this guy is, or they're all lying to you. Well, at the White House, the spokesperson for the White House counsel, Ian Sams, he gave a press conference, again, emergency, Monday or Tuesday, I think it was, of this week, trying to clean up this mess. And he was asked, will you release the transcript of this so the American people for themselves can see exactly how these questions and answers went, so we can determine whether the president has failed memory. And he said, no, we can't do that because of national security concerns. Well, one reporter out there, and I don't know who it is, was very smart. For once, a reporter in the White House briefing room was smart. It's probably the person from, the Daily Caller or a conservative site, and said, hold on a minute. How about just that part about Beau Biden? Because Robert Hur says that he forgot what year Beau Biden was born. Joe Biden says, how dare you even suggest that I forgot that thing? That's a lie. Well, certainly that's not a national security concern. So how about you release that part of the transcript? Watch.
With respect to the portion of the video and the transcript where he was asked about his time as vice president and about Beau Biden's death, why not release those parts of the video? Those aren't classified.
It's a transcript we're talking about, and I already addressed this with Justin.
Okay, so what you're saying is this wasn't a video. There's not tapes that you can release of that.
I'm just responding. I think that the question is about the transcript.
Okay.
So he just changed the subject. He deflected it. He didn't answer the question and just pretended to move on. No answer, no yes, no. Just, yeah, I'm not even going to acknowledge that. But it still remains unanswered. The part about Beau Biden is not classified. Why not release it? There's a cover-up going on. There's a cover-up going on right now. It's the classic Washington scandal. You've got either a crime or, in this case, a terrible, terrifying gaffe that looks like the president is incapable of actually carrying out the duties of his job. And now they're all lying about it and they're trying to cover it up. In fact, the talking points have gotten down to Congress as well.
In the report, it said that President Biden is an elderly man with a bad memory. Do you think that President Biden is mentally fit for office?
That was a partisan report, and President Biden has been absolved of any criminal wrongdoing.
All right, so both of those things are lies. It's not a partisan report. This was from the Justice Department. It was Biden's Justice Department that selected the prosecutor to do it. He wasn't acting as a Republican or a member of any political party, so that's a lie. And also, he was not fully exonerated. Are that the language that she used there? I mean, what a bald-faced lie, if I may say bald-faced lie in this context. It's certainly nothing personal. Congresswoman Presley.
Absolved of any criminal wrongdoing.
Resolved. He's been completely, no, that's actually not at all what the prosecutor's report said. In fact, the prosecutor's report detailed exactly what kind of crimes the president committed. He merely said that we can't press charges because he's got mashed potato for brains. Eric Swalwell was asked the exact same question.
I would prefer an elderly man over an elderly man who's just chaotic and crazy and has 91 felony counts awaiting him.
Yes, this is the other line of attack they're doing. But Trump. They're both elderly man. And they're both, and neither of them have a good memory, which is a hell of a defense for Joe Biden. Oh, well, Trump's just as bad. Okay, if that's the story you want to go with. A lot of people are saying this too, by the way. Trump's old too. Nikki Haley has been using this one. He's old too, and he mistook Nikki Haley for Nancy Pelosi. They're all the same. They're not all the same. If I may give you a little bit of a talking point that you can use against your liberal brother-in-law or the idiot grunge hipster who has a cubicle in the office that's constantly pushing you with Bernie bro stuff, or maybe that idiot who shows up on your Facebook page and challenges you on all these things. What's the difference? Trump's just as bad. Actually, there is a difference. Can I tell you what the difference is? During the Trump presidency, they kept throwing the 25th Amendment out there. Remember this news cycle? They got some TV psychologist to go on CNN and diagnose Donald Trump as mentally unfit without any kind of mental capacity to do the job. Remember this news cycle? I do. I vividly remember it. What did Trump do? What did the Trump White House do? They actually had him take a cognitive test. And they had his doctor come out and answer questions. I think he gave a press conference for like an hour and a half or 2 hours, answering every question from every reporter about the president's health, his fitness, and his mental ability. This White House won't do that. This White House refuses to allow Joe Biden to take the test. And do you know how many times we've heard from the White House physician, the president's doctor? His name is Kevin O'Connor, so I remember it off the top of my head. It's like he's my brother or something, but he's not. Do you know how many times we've heard from Kevin O'Connor, the president's doctor? None. He's never actually personally answered a question about Joe Biden's health. He issues a semi-regular memo to the press, a written memo saying, yeah, president's health is fine, and that's it. He's never had to face questions. There's a huge difference between how Trump handled questions about his fitness for office and how Biden's office has handled questions of his fitness for office. Trump addressed it face forward, head on, complete transparency, and the Biden administration is acting like, well, the Nixon administration. We'll give the last word to the Babylon Bee because they're just so good. Their headline sums it all up. Devout Catholic Joe Biden gives up cognitive tests for Lent. Well, we'll see how that works out for him. Yesterday, we told you about the blockbuster reporting from Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi showing the origins of the Russian collusion hoax investigation. The Obama administration, the CIA, they asked our allies to spy on 26 different individuals who were associated with the Trump campaign. That then led to Operation Crossfire Hurricane and the entire Russian collusion nightmare that nearly paralyzed the Trump administration. It's an absolute outrage. But a lot of this was foretold in a very important book that now is even more relevant. It's this book, Deep State Target: How I Got Caught in the Crosshairs of the Plot to Bring Down President Trump. It's the story that only George Papadopoulos could have told in this book. And now, well, George Papadopoulos joins us to explore this brand new wrinkle. George, thank you so much for being here and commenting on the new news about how you were embroiled in this whole nightmare scenario.
Thanks so much for having me. I wish we would have had a more, optimistic conversation today, but unfortunately, we're still back in 2015, 2016, 2017, because this story that we're about to talk about has now impacted 3 different elections, and we still are getting information out about it. So it's astounding and it's breathtaking to see how far back and how high up the corruption really went.
And I made the point yesterday, Mr. Papadopoulos, that listen, if the CIA and the intelligence community did what they did in 2016, and then of course the lies that they told about the Hunter Biden laptop and all the various innuendos that Trump was once again a puppet of Putin during the 2020 election, well, clearly they're going to try something this year too. So it's important to explore this and flesh it out so that we're ready for it.
They weren't held accountable for what they did in 2016. It's now 2024, and we are now just getting validation for things, as you mentioned. I wrote in my book in 2019, there was some exposure regarding it. There were some journalists, some presenters like yourself, others who wanted the truth out there, but it was all deemed conspiracy theory stuff. The mainstream media determined that anything that went against the official narrative that Trump colluded with Putin and his associates were bad people, that was some sort of Russian disinformation. And it goes exactly to what you just said. They ran an op in 2016. They weren't held accountable. They did it again in 2020. What happened in 2020? The CIA willfully suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop story, which, in my opinion, tilted the election to Biden. That is overt election interference once again by the U.S. intel agencies. The only difference between what happened then and now, with the information that's come out, we're seeing that it was a global effort to take down a populist economic nationalist candidate like Trump, who went against vested interests that these countries obviously had for a third Obama term.
So let's go back and tell this story now, especially in light of the breathtaking reporting from Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi here, that this all was instigated by President Barack Obama and his CIA under the direction of John Brennan, excuse me. So you're in London, and we were told by the FBI that they initiated their counterterrorism, investigation into the Trump campaign because they heard from their ally in Australia that you had been in a bar talking about how the Trump campaign had acquired Hillary Clinton's emails from Russia. Am I getting that story straight?
Well, that was the bizarre narrative that was obviously propagated by the U.S. intel agencies as a cover story. First of all, that never happened. Both this Australian so-called diplomat has refuted that. I've refuted it. And I actually reported this diplomat to the FBI, to Mueller and Congress, in which they basically told me that he was an asset spying on me. So when they said that to me and I started talking about it, people said, this is conspiracy, this guy's crazy. But now look what just came out. MI6 with Five Eyes, meaning Australia, in coordination with the CIA, was colluding to take down the campaign in an effort to then handcuff Trump if he was elected. That's really what happened here. It's not even innuendo at this point. It's fact. It's factual reporting with on-the-record sources, I'm assuming from the CIA, who came on to the Taibbi report and said it. So that's really the situation.
Let me ask you, because the report says, and actually the sources apparently are from those individuals who are familiar with the House Intel Committee, the current sitting House Intel Committee. So obviously there's something happening there in the House with regard to this right now as this is starting to percolate up. You had contact with this individual named Stephen Halper when you were in London, right? And that person also was directed to specifically spy on you and set you into this situation, right?
Yeah, first and foremost, Larry, we need members. You mentioned the House. We really need members of Congress to actually bring John Durham back for more testimony publicly. We need them to bring AG Barr in for public testimony. And let me just explain why. First and foremost, AG Barr went public and said that the CIA stayed in their lane. I think he might even said that under oath, that the CIA had nothing to do whatsoever with this operation. Then you had John Durham, who Matt Gaetz masterfully basically condemned in front of the public, saying, why are you not telling us the truth regarding Joseph Mifsud, Stefan Halper, Alexander Downer, what was going on in London and Rome, all of these cities? You're basically just sitting here regurgitating the Horowitz report, which we've already heard. 3rd. So we need these individuals, based on this new report that just came out, to come back under oath and for Congress to do its job, and that means investigations with teeth. Regarding Stefan Halper, he was just one of the myriad assets and operatives that was spying on me, trying to entrap me in a scandal that I had nothing to do with, for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to create a pretext to frame Donald Trump, his campaign, and to hopefully indict him or at the very least impeach him during his first term. It failed, and they continued.
Now, it would have been obviously illegal for the CIA to spy on an American citizen, especially for political purposes, because they were associated with the Trump campaign. So it appears now that they asked our allies to do it on their behalf and then report back. Do you believe that's what they did, that they targeted you? You were one of these 26 individuals?
Well, when I saw the reporting that described these meetings going back to March of 2016 in Rome and London, as far as I'm concerned, I think I was the only Trump associate who was actually working or, had a professional network at that time in London and Rome. I joined the Trump campaign in March of 2016, so clearly there was some sort of overt effort to try and entrap me before even the Washington Post knew that I joined the Trump campaign in late March of 2016. So you have to understand, you go back to the fake narrative about the New York Times saying this was a spontaneous investigation that started in July of 2016. That's impossible, given the new account of how these operatives by the CIA and MI6 were targeting Trump associates, including myself, going back to March of 2016. Now, does it start at March of 2016? I happen to believe it goes even further back, and they probably targeted even more presidential campaigns than simply Trump's.
It seems hard to believe that something like this, something this critical, this risky, and this brazen would happen without a sign-off from the big guy. And I don't mean Joe Biden in this case. I mean Barack Obama. People are forgetting the fact this is a scandal of the Obama administration. He was president when all this went down.
Well, absolutely. You cannot coalesce an international effort of this magnitude with the players involved, the prime ministers of the UK, Australia, Italy, potentially Israel. There was some sort of reference to Mossad in the article. I'm not sure exactly what that was about. Unless, of course, the big guy, not Joe Biden, but Barack Obama, who was sitting president of the United States in 2016, 2015, authorized this against a rival presidential campaign. Now, Hillary Clinton, what did she know? Of course, she knew that there was an effort to lie to the media to get this investigation going because she wanted to distract from her own email scandal. But that's a nothing burger compared to the initiation of this operation, which could have only come from President Obama and, secondly, his underling, John Brennan, who is the director of the CIA, and likely Gina Haspel, who was the CIA director or the station chief in London. Right.
And then became CIA director. Oh, God, all these names coming back to me. In fact, I'm reminded of the name Azra Turk. She was actually involved. This is this mysterious individual. Azra Turk isn't her real name, but she was also part of this plot to get you, entrapped and engaged in this meeting. Have you ever learned who that person really is or where that person really is?
So this was a very strange situation because it actually was in coordination with the infamous Stefan Halper, who was this Cambridge
FBI
professor
asset who was part of this thing, yeah.
Who was also moonlighting as an asset of the FBI and the CIA and even MI6. So it's one thing for Stefan Halper to make contact with me, Carter Page, Sam Clovis, others on the Trump transition team, which we have documented evidence that he was actually trying to infiltrate the Trump transition team as some sort of advisor on China affairs, which is even more scandalous. However, when you add a honeypot, the way that they did, trying to compromise me in London with Stefan Halper, and the New York Times in reporting said that this was not an FBI operative, this was part of a different agency. We now understand that the FBI was actually working hand in glove with the CIA in operations in London to set up American citizens working on a presidential campaign using potential sex, money, compromise, you name it. They tried doing it to many of us, and it is now just coming out.
Finally, I want you to retell part of your story that, again, is in your book. It's called Deep State Target, and we're going to put the cover of the book up a little bit later to remind everybody. But you tell this harrowing story about an attempt to give you $10,000 in cash as you were returning back to the United States of America. And I want you to tell this story because it shows, I think, how deep this goes and how involved it goes, and to try to get you to violate the law and to be arrested because you were going to be another scalp in this entire sort of picture that they were trying to paint of this foreign diabolical apparatus surrounding Donald Trump as this, Manchurian candidate president.
I always say that the intel agencies should have teamed up with Hollywood script writers, but they never did. So I think what they wanted to make me out to be is some sort of nefarious agent, James Bond type of person that they could plant as a fall person eventually to take down a president. So when you look at the sequence of events from March of 2016, with the meetings with Joseph Mifsud, with the Australians, then the summer with the Honey Pot and Stefan Halper, then other weird meetings that were going on, that all failed. So what did they have to do? They had to create this fake situation, because I used to consult in the energy business. That was my profession before I worked on presidential politics. They had to bring this person named Charles Towell, which I explained in the book, that says I'm an energy some sort of executive, and I want you to come to Israel where I want to discuss a consulting project with you. So that was where my background was. I did a lot of work in Israel and Cyprus and Greece and all these countries, Egypt. So I went, and all of a sudden I'm given $10,000 in cash in a hotel room, and right there and then I realized there was a setup. What did I do? Of course, I'm in Israel. I don't speak the language. I don't know what this person really is doing. So I said, I'm going to take this money, give it to my lawyers like any normal, clean person would. I did. I had lawyers in the country of Greece. I did that. And as I'm flying back to Dulles, I'm intercepted by about 15 FBI agents, rummaging through my luggage, looking for money, asking me about money. And I there realized how far up and how in depth this effort went to take me down, to then take Trump down. It was all manufactured. Nothing was spontaneous. And I want to see accountability. I think the only way we're going to get accountability is through new hearings and potentially a new DOJ under a Trump administration.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. They give you 10 grand cash. You drop it off in Cyprus with your lawyers. You head back to the U.S. And the second you land at Dulles, you're confronted and surrounded by FBI agents who are all looking for that. They were sure you had it. And if you did have it, you would have violated a law and would have been game over for you. Unbelievable. And now it's good to refresh our memories about all of this nefarious actions, because we're now learning that it all was instigated, not even by Hillary Clinton and her campaign, not by James Comey and the FBI and Peter Strzok and all of those people. Nope. It was the CIA asking our allies to spy on 26 American citizens whose only guilt was supporting and working for Donald Trump during the presidential campaign. George, I'm glad you're still telling your story. I worry about you sometimes, considering everything you know and everything that's been going on. So keep public, make sure that people know where you are and check in with people. And listen, we're going to keep pressing this so we can actually try to get some justice here. People need, think about this. There are 18-year-olds who are going to be voting in the presidential election this year for the first time. They were 10 years old when all of this happened. They have no idea.
They have no idea, and if they just simply watched the mainstream media during their high school years, they would have thought it was all fake and a conspiracy and something to basically mock. But fortunately, based on this reputable source coming out yesterday, now people like you and others talking about it once again, I think as long as this message does get to members of Congress, they do hold hearings, including bringing Durham and AG Barr and others back into the hot seat, and an eventual new DOJ under, I hope, a Trump administration, I think we will find accountability. The country will finally heal itself, and we will make America great again, I believe.
George Papadopoulos, let's remind everybody of the book, again, that tells this story, names the names, gives all the details. It's Deep State Target, How I Got Caught in the Crosshairs of the Plot to Bring Down President Trump. George, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's an amazing story, and I want to thank again George Papadopoulos for joining us. We're all over that story, and we'll continue to be all over that story. And don't let anyone tell you, "Oh, that's old news. We already know about that." No. No one has paid the price for this. No one has paid a penalty, and the rest of the media is ignoring it. And that's, by the way, good entree into telling you about the Town Hall VIP program, and especially the VIP Gold program. Our websites, Town Hall, Hot Air, Red State, PJ Media, Twitchy, and Bearing Arms, we do the kind of journalism that the Main Street media will not do. They refuse to do. They're frankly sometimes too scared to do. We were on the forefront of so many stories in picking apart what the mainstream media narrative was. Much of the Russian collusion hoax was blown apart and exposed on our sites, as well as the lies behind the COVID-19 origins and the dubious recommendations coming from the CDC. Those are the kind of stories that get deleted and censored and downplayed in social media, oftentimes demonetized. And that's where you come in. And that's where the Town Hall VIP program comes in. You really want those stories. You want that journalism. And the only way to keep it going outside of the confines of big tech and the pressure and censorship that they employ is for us to have our VIP program. So I want you to go to the Town Hall VIP website. It's a tab right off of any Town Hall site. Just click the VIP tab and join us up. You use the promo code Larry and you're going to get 50% off for the whole year. 50% off if you use promo code Larry. We really appreciate you supporting our journalism. It gives you an ad-free experience, by the way, and also gives you a ton of content that is exclusive just for VIP members, including podcasts, video streams, live streams on our sites. And again, you'll keep us going and doing the journalism that you need, that you crave, that you deserve outside of the pressure of big tech. That's the VIP program, Town Hall sites. Use promo code Larry for 50% off. All right, which brings us to, by the way, a story that is breaking as we're live right now on Rumble every day at noon. We're live right now, and this story is developing in a courtroom in Fulton County. Of course, the hearing is going on to decide whether Fani Willis should be removed from the prosecution of President Donald Trump. And we've got our friend Greg Price has pinpointed one very important data point under oath, and that is that an employee of the district attorney's office, a friend of Fani Willis since college, says that Ms. Willis was in a relationship with Nathan Wade. This is the man in question that has now been hired to be a special prosecutor. And the allegations are that tax dollars have been funneled to Mr. Wade through Willis's DA's office, and then that money has been kicked back to the district attorney. She has benefited and profited off of the prosecution of Donald Trump in the guise of money, luxury trips, luxury hotel rooms. And this friend of Fani Willis says that she has been in this relationship since 2019. Now, as Greg points out here, as Greg Price points out, in the original deposition, the district attorney, Ms. Willis, claims that it was in 2022, or excuse me, it's Mr. Wade who maintains under oath that in 2022, District Attorney Willis developed the personal relationship. In other words, well, this happened after the investigation began into Donald Trump, right? Because part of the allegation here is that she was in a relationship with this guy, Mr. Wade, and she purposely appointed him the special prosecutor from a private law firm so that all of this tax dollar money associated with the special prosecution of Donald Trump could be funneled to her boyfriend, and then she would also directly benefit from that as well. As you can see, he is claiming that it all began in 2022. Item number 29 here. No funds paid to me in compensation for my role as special prosecutor have been shared with or provided to District Attorney Willis. And also, at times, I have made and purchased travel for District Attorney Willis and myself from my personal funds. At other times, District Attorney Willis has made and purchased travel for she and I from her personal funds. Why is all this important? Well, first, watch the video testimony of this friend who was appearing via Zoom in the courthouse. This happened about 30 minutes ago.
Yes. And do you understand it that their relationship began in 2019 and continued until the last time you spoke with her? Yes.
All right. That's direct testimony that contradicts the sworn testimony of Mr. Wade, the special prosecutor. And then a very dramatic moment happened. Again, this is about 20 minutes ago as we speak. Mr. Wade took the stand. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of this.
So in 2023, December, you said you didn't have any receipts.
I do not have any receipts. I did not have any receipts.
But you did travel with Miss Willis in 2023, correct?
I did.
And you traveled with her in 2022, correct?
I did.
And you traveled with her in 2021, correct?
No.
So you only traveled with her in 2022 and 2023.
2022 and 2023 is what I recall.
That's what you recall?
Yes.
Okay. So you just don't remember if you traveled with her in 2021?
2022 and 2023 is what I recall.
Is what you recall. My question is, did you travel with her in 2021?
Not recalling any travel in 2021.
So it's not yes or no, you just don't remember?
I'm not recalling any travel in 2021.
So you did not travel with her in 2021? Your Honor.
This has been covered. Let's keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah, seems totally trustworthy, doesn't it? Yeah, I've got to ask you, it shouldn't be too hard, especially when you know that this is going to be a question asked. You know, okay, going in, let's just make sure we know yes or no. Was there any travel in any of these years? And in fact, do you even really need to check your notes or your calendars about travel that you may have done with a certain person in your life in any given year? And he didn't even try to remember. Did you notice that? Is it, I don't recall. Or is it a yes or a no? I don't recall. Well, could you try to recall? No. Why do you say I don't recall? Because if it turns out there's any evidence that he did travel with her, well, that's not perjury. I didn't say no. I just said I didn't recall. All right. It gets worse for Mr. Wade, actually. And again, just watch the demeanor, watch the way he answers these questions, and you decide, do you think he's telling the truth? Watch.
And that you never cohabitated with Willis, correct?
That's correct.
By cohabitation, does that mean that you never spent the night with Willis?
I spent the night with her during
Spent the
travel.
night.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so I just want to qualify your use of the term cohabitation. That means you didn't live together,
That's correct.
but you did spend the night together.
Yes.
When was the first time you spent the night together?
Your Honor.
That's the subject of his affidavit, Judge.
Right, but it might not be the subject of this hearing. So the question is the nature and extent of the relationship. And so if they just spent the night on a single occasion, I don't think we're going to document in detail every single time that happens.
And I don't intend to do that, Judge, but I think what is relevant is when the relationship started. And that's what you had indicated on.
Well, why don't we start with that question and go from there?
And that's what I asked, when the first time he spent the night with her was. That's what I asked.
That's a different question, isn't it?
Okay, so let's not talk about when you spent the night. When did your romantic relationship with Miss Willis begin?
2022.
When? In 2022.
Early 2022.
So you were appointed in.
There's a little bit more here that we're going to play, but here we are the day after Valentine's Day, and my man can't even remember his anniversary. I mean, come on. And it's not even that long ago. I got to ask you, anybody, if you're in a relationship right now, boyfriend, girlfriend, engaged, married, even divorced, broken up, do you remember your first date? Do you remember the first date that you had with the person that you are currently in a relationship with? Do you? I bet you do. This guy, when was it? 2022. When? Let's say early. I remember it distinctly. It was poor Fani. I'm starting to feel sorry for her now. She sure can't pick them, can't they? Oh, either that or he knows very well and he just doesn't want to tell the truth. He's just lying. Or more accurately, he's being incredibly evasive and vague and imprecise so that he doesn't get caught in perjury charges. That's what we're witnessing here. They look really trustworthy. These are the people who are prosecuting a former president of the United States, the current presumptive nominee to be the Republican Party presidential candidate. These are the people who are prosecuting him. And look how they conduct themselves.
In November of 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
And your relationship started early. What's early? January? February?
Around March.
Around March.
Around March. Oh my gosh, dude, it's your anniversary. All right, a little bit more here. It gets spicy.
Let me say this. Let's take the Belize trip, for example, since you started there. That was a birthday gift to me, so I paid nothing for that trip. Zero.
Okay. So the charges that are on your card, she gave you cash for?
She did.
Okay. So all of the charges.
Excuse me, Your Honor, I believe the witness has finished answering the question.
Oh, did you have more?
Yeah, and we're going to get to more, but this is going to be pretty key here. So they took a trip to Belize. And again, this is one of those luxury trips where we're saying, see, these are kickbacks. You know, he gets paid money to prosecute Donald Trump. Then he takes her to Belize and she gets to benefit from this. And it's, you know, that's you can't directly financially or in any way benefit from your work for the state, unless you're a Biden, of course. That's totally different, but these guys aren't Bidens. So you go to this trip for Belize and he goes, hold on. That was a gift to me, a birthday present. Wow, Fani Willis, that's a hell of a present. He can't even remember your anniversary and you're buying him a trip to Belize for his birthday. But there are charges on his credit card during that trip. So they're like, okay, hold on. How was this a gift to you if you're paying for stuff? So clearly you are paying for stuff, and you're paying for stuff theoretically with money that you're making right now because you're living high on the hog because you're a very well-paid special prosecutor for Donald Trump. And he's like, no. She reimbursed me for all of that. Really? Can you show us the canceled check? Can you show us any receipts for the reimbursement? She gave me cash. You following all this? This is like organized crime stuff right now. All right, we'll get back to it here. Here we go.
I did.
Okay.
I wanted to get into the charges on the card because so traveling with her is a task. You can probably imagine the attention that happens. So
traveling with her really sucks. I got to tell you something. It's a chore. It's just us talking here. She's the worst. She overpacks. I got to carry her bags. I feel like I'm watching some sort of marriage therapy on a Judge Judy episode. Traveling with her is a task. Bro, you're in trouble, man. This whole thing. If you were hoping to settle down with Fani, I don't think it's going to happen.
So for safety reasons, she would limit her transactions. I mean, imagine trying to walk through an airport or sit at a restaurant or do anything. So there's no attempt to conceal. It's a credit card. Everything is here. So,
and that's not what I asked.
Okay.
What I asked was the charges for Belize in March 2023 on that credit card. Those are things you purchased to go with Miss Willis to Belize.
Those are things that we booked with my card that she
Yes.
paid. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Glad you cleared that up. By the way, I do love the whole thing. If what you're asking is, was I trying to cover something up? The answer is no. Actually, I wasn't going to ask you if you were covering anything up, but noted. You can always tell somebody's innocent when they immediately say, hey, before you even ask, I'm not covering anything up. There was no attempt to hide anything here. Okay, just chill, man. You seem really, really innocent. All right, there's more. This gets better.
If you've ever spent any time with Miss Willis, you understand that she's a very independent, proud woman.
I'd object.
So she's going to
overrule, Mr. White.
So she's going to insist that she carries her own weight, and it actually was a point of contention between the two of us. She is going to pay her own way.
I mean, again, I don't want to give relationship advice here, but when you're dating a woman who's like Fani Willis, maybe you shouldn't sort of proudly proclaim to the entire world that she carries her own weight, if you know what I mean. That said, I don't want to get gratuitous here. That's not the word for today. Watch this brilliant moment, and then we will we'll wrap things up here on this testimony that's still going on as we speak. But it ain't going well for Donald Trump's prosecutors. I assure you of that. Here, watch.
Did you go to a cabin with Miss Willis ever?
Ever?
Ever.
I'm sorry. Sorry. What the hell just happened? So, according to this guy, they've only been dating for 2 years. It's a pretty simple question. Have you ever been in a cabin with her? And how long did it take? Was his brain broken? Does he have an implant and he's like hoping to get the answer submitted to him or transmitted to him from Fani? What did we decide we were going to say about this one? Can we do I gotta count the seconds on how long it took for him to come up with this one. This is Biden-esque in terms of brain malfunction. All right, here we go. You ready? Let's one more time.
Did you go to a cabin with Miss Willis ever?
Ever?
Ever.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19,
No.
20.
You've never gone to a cabin with this.
No.
20 seconds. 20 seconds to answer that question. And here's the best part. I bet they did go to a cabin. I bet there's some evidence. Why would you even ask that question if you didn't have some sort of understanding that? All right. Well, you get the picture of how this is going down in Fulton County, Georgia. And if anything else develops during our live webcast here, our live stream, we'll let you know. But, oh boy, at the very least, the American people are getting a really clear picture about the people who are now trying to prevent you from being able to vote for Donald Trump. And by the way, Trump is in the courtroom, too, while all this is going on. I can't wait for him to comment on this at the rally. All right. Meanwhile, yesterday was Valentine's Day, and we learned about a brand new budding romance. Check this out. Oh, look at this couple. Look at those lovebirds having a Valentine's Day dinner in Paris, France. The guy there, the little dweeby-looking Nevishy dude, that is Alex Soros, the son of George Soros. And the woman, as you can see from the tag there on Instagram, is none other than Huma Abiden. And you might be thinking, Huma Abiden, who is Huma Abiden? Well, you might remember her on the shoulder of a different individual, almost locked like Siamese twins. You couldn't not see her always connected at the hip with this individual. Hillary Clinton. That's right. Huma Abiden is the longtime personal assistant, let's say, of Hillary Clinton. They go all the way back to the State Department. Her fingerprints were all over a whole bunch of Hillary Clinton scandals, including, yes, the email server scandal. Huma Abiden was, in fact, married, and the ceremony was officiated by Bill Clinton. Imagine having Bill Clinton officiate at your wedding. What kind of message does that send? Huma Abiden, for a long time, was in a very, very cozy professional relationship with Hillary Clinton. And that marriage I just alluded to, who was she married to? Anthony Weiner. Boy, this story just gets creepier and creepier. Now, if you're just joining the world of politics and news and you're not familiar with the name Anthony Weiner, let me just give you a quick rundown of who he is. He's just recently been released from a federal penitentiary for, well, sex crimes, specifically sex crimes involving cross-state communications with minors. Let's say he's a sexual deviant and was prosecuted for such. And the very first time by the way, he was almost the mayor of New York. He was a congressman from New York. He had to resign in disgrace because of a scandal, exactly like I just described. Then he rehabilitated himself and almost won the mayor's race in New York, except right before the election, another scandal involving another underage girl and cross-state internet sex was revealed. So he had to drop out of that race, and then he was prosecuted for those crimes. Oh, and by the way, the very laptop that he used for all of those tawdry sexual escapades contained tens of thousands of Hillary Clinton's classified emails from the State Department that his wife, Huma Abiden, was in charge of. That's who these people are. And since we're mentioning and educating everybody about who Anthony Weiner is, can we just take a quick walk down memory lane to talk about Huma Abiden's first real love? Because when he was outed as a sexual deviant, the story sort of captivated America for about a week. There was a lot of mystery involved around it. You see, he was caught sending tawdry, illicit sexual pictures of his body parts utilizing Twitter, social media. See, he accidentally sent it out on his regular Twitter feed instead of through a direct message. And when he was caught, he claimed he was hacked. Here's how Dana Bash reported the story at the time.
Well, we know that the congressman is saying that he was hacked and that we should take his word for it. And conservative bloggers are trying to build a case suggesting not so fast.
It came from Congressman Anthony Weiner's Twitter account over the weekend, a photo of an anonymous man's bulging underwear. The lewd picture, immediately deleted from Weiner's account, was sent to this 21-year-old Seattle college student, but also available to the public to view on Twitter. Outside his New York home Monday, Weiner, an outspoken liberal Democrat, insisted to CNN it was the work of a hacker.
I was hacked. It happens to people. You move on.
It's not clear who sent it.
Yeah, it's not clear who sent it. He claims he was hacked. And this is where the story, for me, gets personal. Because the person he was blaming for hacking him was Andrew Breitbart. Andrew Breitbart, my friend, my boss at the time. He passed away in 2012. In fact, on March 1st, we're about to it's not celebrate, but acknowledge the 12-year anniversary of his death. This all happened in 2010. And there's the smile. Oh, I just want to show him. Look at that smile on his face. Look at, I was hacked. That's fine. This is a sitting congressman accusing Andrew Breitbart, a journalist, of a federal crime. He hacked me. Andrew Breitbart hacked me. That's right. He blamed Andrew Breitbart at the time. I was working for Andrew. I was one of his editors at the time. And here's how the story played out in this exact same CNN story. Watch.
But questions surrounding the lewd photo quickly became the subject of a serious internet war between liberal blogs suggesting it's a right-wing conspiracy and conservative blogs questioning Weiner's hacking claim. Andrew Breitbart, a conservative blogger whose biggovernment.com first reported the story, suggested to CNN there should be a, quote, forensic analysis to determine the veracity of Congressman Weiner's hacking allegation, which certainly bears criminal implications.
In fact, spokesmen for both the Capitol Police and the FBI tell CNN they're not yet investigating this alleged hacking of a member of Congress's Twitter account. Now, Weiner's spokesman tells CNN he's actually hired a lawyer to, quote, explore the proper next steps and get advice on what civil or criminal actions could be taken. And Candy.
Yeah. Can I tell you something? As a person who was sort of in the room as this was all going down, this was a terrifying time. We knew we were right. We knew, obviously, that we didn't hack Anthony Weiner. We knew that he was lying. And think about it. Andrew Breitbart, as you saw in that report, actually said, if the congressman claims he was hacked, let's have an investigation. Right? So the person who's being accused of hacking the congressman is actually calling for a criminal investigation. Meanwhile, the FBI and the Capitol Police are saying, yeah, we're not sure what to do here. And Anthony Weiner, his spokesperson, says, we're hiring a lawyer. So, of course, over at our little company, Breitbart News, well before it was this big website that you know now, we were like, oh, my God, this is a congressman connected to the highest levels with the Clintons who's now threatening to hire lawyers and come after us. And he's claiming that we broke federal law in hacking him. This is a smarmy, horrible human being. This is the guy who Huma Abiden, the close confidant of Hillary Clinton, was married to. Here's how people in the left-wing media covered this story. You might recognize this guy.
Breitbart, the conservative clown who thinks he's a journalist, what a joke, has done another fraudulent story as usual. He is reporting that Congressman Anthony Weiner sent out a picture from his Twitter account to a 21-year-old college student in Seattle, Washington, and that it had an indecent picture, that it was a man's genitals that could be seen through his trousers. And the implication was that he had a relationship with this woman and they were exchanging naughty pictures. Okay. Now, you're not going to be surprised to find out, of course, that it's totally and utterly untrue. The woman says, what the hell is, what are people talking about? She's just a random student in Washington. All of a sudden, people start blowing up her Twitter and they're like, oh, what about your boyfriend, Anthony Weiner? And he sent the dirty picture. She didn't even get the picture. It already got erased by the time it got.
There you go. There's Senk there telling you it's not true. Trust him. None of it's true. None of it's true. Breitbart's a fraud. Breitbart's a hoaxer. This is all fake. It's all fake. Sound familiar, by the way? There's a reason why I'm sending you down this path here, because Huma Abiden, again, you remember the Hillary Clinton email scandal that she was at the center of? Remember how they treated that story? When it was only conservative bloggers like Andrew Breitbart and other conservatives in the media who were following and pursuing that story. And what did Huma Abedin and Hillary Clinton and the entire media complex say? Same thing. It's always a lie. It's always a fraud. It's always fake. Like today, when we're saying that Joe Biden clearly is mentally incapable of being president. Well, that's just a right-wing conspiracy. You're pouncing, you conservatives. When we talk about the crimes of the Biden family and the Hunter Biden laptop, what did they say? Oh, this is propaganda. This is fake. This is disinformation. Nothing here is new. This is what they always do when we've got them. This is what they always do. See, the difference here, though, and the genius that I got to witness firsthand with Andrew Breitbart is that he knew. He knew that Anthony Weiner had done this before. You see, he didn't tell anybody in the media. He could have, but he didn't tell anyone in the media that the night Anthony Weiner accidentally sent out a picture of his situation there on Twitter, we had already been given a tip. Weeks before, a tipster went to our open tip email box at Breitbart.com and said, I'm a young woman, I live in Texas, and Anthony Weiner has been sending me naked pictures of himself. Andrew already knew that he had done this before. And we had to wait through this entire week of mania, of hysteria, of accusing us of hacking federal client. I mean, we had to deal. I mean, Cenk Uyghur is nothing compared to some of the stuff we saw on mainstream media, on ABC News, on CNN, across the board, calling us liars, calling us frauds, calling it. And then 1 week later, we got the permission of this young woman to release the pictures of Anthony Weiner, release them to the world and say, look, he's done it before. And then the day that we released that, Anthony Weiner called an emergency press conference in New York. And I don't know if you know this whole story, but here's what happened at his press conference. At the stage, on the podium, Andrew Breitbart stepped up before Anthony Weiner could actually take the stage.
I'm here coincidentally. I just arrived at LaGuardia because of media requests. And as I got into my hotel, I'm Andrew Breitbart, by the way. We reported this at Big Government and Big Journalism. And I'm here coincidentally. I did not know that they were going to be announcing this. So I'm just staying at a hotel about 3 blocks away. So I just decided to come by and see what he had to say.
So how positive are you that what you reported backed up?
Specifically, I mean, we're reporting a lot of things here, such as at first, I think we were vindicated at first after a 3-day frenzy of trying to attack my journalism, my websites on the nature of the initial hack story. Everything.
Listen, we could watch this, and it went on for about 20 minutes, and it was on all the networks because all the networks were waiting. They had this empty podium waiting for Anthony Weiner to take the stage and announce that he was going to resign from his office and all that stuff. And it goes on for a while. You should watch it. It's great. It's a great little nugget into history, and it's hard for me to watch and cut him off because it was so brilliant and so beautiful. And I want you to know just some inside info. It's 100% true what he was saying. He was just going to hang out in the back of the room. He actually had no battery left on his phone, and he was charging it. One of the local New York CBS News reporters recognized him and said, Andrew, what are you doing here? And he goes, well, I want to see what Anthony Weiner has to say. I'm a journalist just like you. And suddenly everyone in the room realized, oh my God, Andrew's here. And they all started asking him questions. And he was trying to respond and answer their questions, but they couldn't hear him because it's this big room. And so they said, well, why don't you go up there? There's a live microphone. We can ask you. It wasn't his idea. He wasn't his idea. He didn't plan on doing this, but they just said, we can't hear you. Go up on the stage and answer the questions. So all of these cable networks have the live shot of the empty podium, and they're waiting and they're talking. And then suddenly, before you know it, that's not Anthony Weiner on screen. It's Andrew Breitbart. One other little insight into this. We had a group text going on, the various editors at the sites. John Nolte at Big Hollywood. Dana Lash was the editor of Big Journalism at the time. And myself at Breitbart TV. And Alex Marlowe, who is the associate editor, who's now the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News. Anyway, we had a group text going on. Joel Pollack, I think, was also on that text. And he said, I'm over at the press conference now, and I'm going to charge my phone. And we were like, what are you doing at Weiner's press conference? He goes, well, I want to know what he has to say. I want to see what happens. I'll be able to report back. And then he texted us. I swear to God, he texted us. I wish I had saved this text. God, it was like 8 phones ago, right? And he texted me, and he all of us, and he said, don't worry. I'm going to keep a low profile. And the next thing you know, he's on every single television nationwide. A little bit more on this, actually. One last word on it. Because after this, of course, Anthony Weiner did emerge. And he was asked by the reporters, will you apologize to Andrew Breitbart for falsely accusing him and his entire staff, his entire team? Will you apologize to Andrew Breitbart? Watch what this cretin, this horrible, lying, deviant, corrupt, horrible human being, watch what he goes through internally to finally reach the point where he will just do the basic, decent human thing and apologize to Andrew. Watch.
Well, I'm here primarily to express my apologies to my wife and family, but anyone who was misled, all of you who were misled, people who I lied to, I have an apology for all of them.
But not specifically for him, not an apology?
Look, if I believe that I believe that everyone deserves an apology here, and I certainly am. I'm certain. I'll be. Here's what.
Where's your wife right now?
I apologize to Andrew Breitbart. I apologize to the many other members of the media that I misled. I apologize first and foremost to my wife and to my family.
Did you see the internal monologue that was going on there? He was making a political calculation. Should I apologize to Breitbart? Oh my God, do I need to give him that? Oh, do I probably should. Okay, fine, I'm going to do it. And then he did it. And as you heard, he apologized to his wife, Huma Abiden. His wife, Huma Abiden, who now is dating this guy, as we began this entire conversation with. Huma Abiden has now moved on from that guy, Anthony Weiner, and she has moved on from being the bag man for Hillary and Bill Clinton and all of their nefarious dealings overseas through their foundations. She's now moved on to Alex Soros, the son of George Soros. What a couple. What a match made in heaven. In fact, let's just remind you now that we've gone through this journey and seen what a disgusting, horrible human being she used to be married to in Anthony Weiner. Let's just finish with who Alex Soros is now and what he's all about. You'll remember just a couple weeks ago at the World Economic Forum.
I don't think that that's the fundamental. I don't think technology is the fundamental issue in democracy. Democracy is messy. I mean, democracy is about contestation of ideas. It's about plurality. It's about people having different truths, actually. Now, fundamentally, how society lives together civically in those contestations is obviously quite tricky. But I think that if we play too much on this disinformation card, we're taking the responsibility away from ourselves to actually create a narrative that inspires people to vote and to believe in democracy and democratic institutions. And on the institutional part, I think that we can talk about institutions as these abstract things, but institutions are also about people. And we just heard this point about untrustworthy people, and we talked about things in the United States like checks and balances, which aren't written anywhere but are customs. And one man, Donald Trump, literally came in and just took that all away.
So he's a anti-Trump zealot who can't actually say a sentence without 18 ums peppered between the words. He's trying to lead a crusade against quote-unquote disinformation. He claims that there are multiple truths out there, not just one single truth. And he claims that checks and balances isn't actually written down anywhere, even though, well, it is the exact form of government that we have. The words checks and balances might not be in the Constitution, but the three branches of government do, in fact, keep each other in check and balance out. And he's sitting on billions and billions and billions of Daddy George's dollars. Daddy George, who, by the way, just bought a company that owns over 200 radio stations, including some major conservative talk radio stations in major markets in the United States, just in time for the presidential election. And I assure you, Mr. Soros did not purchase these radio stations because it was a good investment and he plans on making money, because that's not what people do in radio anymore, sadly. You might want to look up and see if one of your radio stations is owned by a company named Odyssey, where you live, because if your favorite talk radio station, conservative station, is owned by Odyssey, it's now owned by George Soros. And you might want to take a look at the content on that station and how it may develop over the coming months leading up to the election. Yeah, that's George Soros, and that's his son, Alex Soros, and that's Huma Abiden, former bagman for the Clintons and former wife of Anthony Weiner. That's who she's now dating. What kind of terrifying, wealthy, evil spawn child are these two going to create? And what kind of unholy, terrifying alliance are we seeing now with Clinton world and Soros world merging before our very eyes? Be afraid. Check out Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress. She was asked specifically about David Cameron, Lord Cameron, by the way. He used to be the Prime Minister of England. Now he's their Foreign Secretary, and she's got some choice words for him.
I think that I really don't care what David Cameron has to say. I think that's rude name calling, and I don't appreciate that type of language. And David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
Okay, shots fired. That's pretty spicy stuff. What was that all about? Well, let's break down the entire story for you. There's actually a longer clip of this encounter. That clip, by the way, came from Marjorie Taylor Greene's own staff people who recorded it. But from Sky News, we have the full encounter with the reporter, and he's asking Marjorie Taylor Greene about an op-ed that David Cameron just wrote at The Hill. He wrote it at The Hill clearly to get the attention of American lawmakers, right? And he's urging the House of Representatives to pass funding for Ukraine. So now let's watch this entire exchange, and then we'll sort of break down the details of it for you.
Secretary David Cameron says that you should vote through funding for Ukraine. What do you say to that?
I think he tried to compare us to Hitler also. And if that's the kind of language he wants to use, I really have nothing to say to him.
Well, he likened you to an appeaser to Hitler in not voting through funding for Ukraine. Are you an appeaser for Putin?
I think that I really don't care what David Cameron has to say. I think that's rude name calling, and I don't appreciate that type of language. And David Cameron needs to worry about his own country, and frankly, he can kiss my ass.
But do you think Putin's the good guy in all this?
Do you think Putin's the good guy and all? You love how that's how the British press frames this stuff, and frankly, the American press too. You know, maybe we shouldn't keep giving tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine, since there's a lot of questions about how corrupt that government might be and how the money is being used. And oh, by the way, this is a standoff. That money's not really going anywhere to winning the war and ending this. So maybe we should talk about maybe a ceasefire and maybe some peace talks and some negotiations. Oh, so you think Putin's the good guy? That's how our conversation goes right now about this. It's outrageous and it's unrealistic. Now, you heard there Marjorie Taylor Greene, and to be fair, she erroneously said, she said, I think he compared us to Hitler. And the reporter corrected her. It's not quite that bad. David Cameron did not compare members in the House of Representatives who are questioning whether we should continue to fund at this level the Ukrainian war effort, did not compare them to Hitler, compared them to being appeasers of Hitler. Hitler appeasers. That's right. Here's the money quote from The Hill. This is David Cameron writing in The Hill. I do not want us to show the weakness displayed against Hitler in the 1930s. He came back for more, costing us far more lives to stop his aggression. I do not want us to show the weakness displayed against Putin in 2008 when he invaded Georgia, or the uncertainty of the response in 2014 when he took Crimea and much of the Donbass before coming back to cost us far more with his aggression in 2022. Okay, let me pause there for a moment. Let's keep it up on the screen here. We're going to go backwards in time while we analyze exactly what he's saying. Because if you're not paying attention to world affairs, if you're not paying attention to recent history, let alone history from almost 100 years ago, you might not miss exactly what he's saying here. Let's start with 2020. Well, stop with, we know what happened in 2022. That's what we're in the middle of right now. The uncertainty of the response in 2014 when he took Crimea and much of the Donbass. Who was president in 2014? It was Barack Obama. Just 2 years before that, in 2012, when Barack Obama was running for re-election, Mitt Romney at the debate said that the biggest existential threat right now to world peace is Vladimir Putin and Russia. And do you remember Barack Obama mocked him, made fun of him, said, Governor Romney, the 80s are calling. They want their foreign policy back. Remember? And he was celebrated by the media. He was celebrated by the left. He was celebrated by the likes of Tony Blair and David Cameron, saying, that's right, Obama's so cool. He's not back there in the 80s like stuffy Mitt Romney, who's worried about Vladimir Putin and Russia. Ha! You're such an old fogey. Come on, man. Obama's cool. He knows who the real thing, right? You remember that? I remember it. I remember it in detail. Mr. Cameron, where were you in 2014? When Crimea was invaded? By the way, 2014, they invaded Crimea. 2022, Putin came back into Ukraine. Between 2014 and 2022, there was a different president, right? Specifically from 2017 to 2021, when nothing happened. That was Donald Trump who was president. And again, Mr. Cameron, where were you? How supportive were you of Donald Trump? Were you? Or were you joining your friends over there in the EU and Europe and the left, mocking him and making fun of him? The only effective president in this entire recent political scenario is, in fact, Donald Trump, when Putin and Russia did nothing. Going backwards, the weakness displayed against Putin in 2008, well, that was when George Bush was president and was during a presidential election year. Barack Obama didn't have much to say about it. In fact, he brought in Joe Biden to be his vice president because Joe Biden liked to talk tough about Putin and, in fact, did nothing about Putin. But then let's go back to the 30s. This passive language here is really something to behold. I do not want us to show the weakness displayed against Hitler in the 1930s. This is a former prime minister of the United Kingdom and now the current foreign secretary of the United Kingdom, talking about the weakness displayed against Hitler in the 1930s. And if you didn't know history, you would think that he's referring to America's weakness against Hitler in the 1930s, right? This entire column is to implore the House of Representatives, American politicians, to join his country in funding the Ukraine war effort. And to make the case, he says, I do not want us to show the weakness displayed against Hitler in the 1930s. Who showed weakness against Hitler in the 1930s? It was Neville Chamberlain. Neville Chamberlain, the Prime Minister of England. It was his weakness. Why doesn't he just say that? I don't want you to make the mistake that England made in the 1930s. Why didn't he say that? He didn't say that. He made it sound like it was America's weakness. No, actually, it was America's strength finally joining the war that ended Hitler's aggression. But that is a despicable, despicable charge. He is either ignoring the fact that it was Neville Chamberlain, the English prime minister, who allowed Hitler to roll through Europe, or he's trying to actually deflect that blame onto the United States of America, or at best, instead of all of that, he's just comparing us to his own country and their weakness during the 1930s. Either way, it's outrageous. And everybody's saying, "Oh, Marjorie Taylor Greene, that's so wrong and that's so rude. How dare you tell Cameron to kiss your ass? What kind of diplomat are you?" First of all, it's not her job to be a diplomat. It's her job to represent her district and to represent America's interests. But in fact, it's literally David Cameron's job to be a diplomat. And is there anything diplomatic about that? About raising Hitler and suggesting that America showed weakness against Hitler in the 30s? No. Now, it's funny because everyone's like, she shouldn't say that. That's outrageous. Why is she picking a fight with our ally, telling Cameron to kiss her ass? That's awful. Well, it may be a little untoward. It might be a little crass. But guess what? It's effective. Because earlier today, just 12 hours after MTG suggested that Lord Cameron kiss her you-know-whatsits, Cameron was asked to respond, and suddenly he's found diplomacy. Watch.
I say this as someone who is not wanting in any way to lecture American friends or tell American friends what to do. I say it as someone who has a deep and abiding love of the United States, of their democracy, of their belief in freedom, but as someone who really believes in the importance of our alliance. To me, it's very personal. I remember the stories my grandfather told of fighting after D-Day under the support of American warships. I think of what I did with the American president to clear ISIL out of Iraq and Syria. When Britain and Europe and America, when we stand together, when we fight together, when we stand up for freedom, when we stand against aggression, when we stand with our partners, we can't be defeated.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish, Dave. I am, but when you said you stood with and joined the American president to effectively clear ISIS from Syria and Iraq, which president was that exactly? Could you name him, please? Could you let the world know which president you're talking about? The American president? That would be President Trump, right? But boy, he's sure is singing another tune. I don't want to offend anyone in America. I'm not trying to lecture you. Well, you sure were lecturing us in your column in The Hill. Let's let him finish, and then we'll wrap this up.
That's what's necessary this time. And it's not just a European issue. There will be other people watching what the Americans do. They will be watching in China. They'll be watching in Iran. And every country around the world will be watching to say, are we, these Western countries, are we reliable allies? When we say we're going to back you, when we say you're right to resist aggression, when we say you're right to defend your country, when we say you're right to defend your borders, are we with you, not just today and tomorrow and for months, but are we with you until your aggressor has lost?
Yeah, okay, good, great words. Try using that same philosophy with Israel. Would you please? Because honestly, you guys are a little squishy on that. And so are your pals here in America on the political left. Because everything you just said about Ukraine defending themselves against their aggressor, you're not so strong when it comes to Israel. What's the difference there? I wonder. But I'm glad that he's found diplomacy. I'm glad that he kind of is not apologizing, but certainly rephrasing and further explaining the intent of the article that he wrote and about how he certainly isn't trying to lecture America and his good friends and partners, the Americans, on what they should be doing. It's great. It's nice to see a little contrition here. And ask yourself something. Do you think you would have seen this if Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene had not suggested that Lord Cameron bend over and kiss her? I guess we don't really need that image, do we? That's it for today. We will be back next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing the clips. Thanks for just being you. I'm Larry O'Cotter. You can call me Larry.